and it would help you out. Drawing lines, you can now, before you could, if you drew lines with the line tool, you could do this, and then if you wanted to make this round, you had to go back. If you wanted the corner to be curved, you had to go back and fix it with node edit. Now if you hold the S, it will smooth this corner, so you get something like that. It's not an arc, but it's a line, and a line with a radius corner instead of a. And the other thing they fixed on that was, if you have two lines, you have a line here and a line here, and you draw a line from right here to right here, it automatically makes that one segment instead of three segments. Used to, it was a segment here, a segment here, and a segment here, but now it auto joins right here. Barcodes, we've always been able to make QR codes with Lightburn. You could type in, if you saw at the fair, I made little hangy tags, and for the holiday gift sale and other things, you can just QR code it and it takes you to a URL. If you QR code this, it's actually my contacts, so I don't carry business cards anymore. Shoot this with your phone and it puts my contacts, puts my name, my email address, my phone number in your phone automatically. So we've always been able to do this in Lightburn, but there are some standards that I don't even know what the others are, but they're like the regular barcodes instead of the QR codes and stuff, so you can pick whichever one you want now, and it will automatically do it in Lightburn. So there's 20, it says 20 20 barcode formats, so you should be able to barcode the world. Shaded selection boxes. There's another thing and this is not a, this is more of a Microsoft thing, but if you have a box and you take your mouse and you click here and you pull the cursor down this way from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, you have to encapsulate the whole object before it will grab it. But if you start here at the right-hand side and go up, you only have to touch the object and it'll grab it. Now what Lightburn does, if you go right to left, it makes a green box as you go around it, and it will, it sort of shows you where your cursor is, basically. It's just another visual thing. And if you go left to right, it's red. Try it when you get home. It's a cool thing. I like it. Here's the URLs. All that stuff, that first page that had 17, it had like 2 columns worth of stuff. It's that's what this is. It's the release date for 1.7. The other cool thing that came out, not with 1.7, but at the same time they released both of them, is their new documentation page. Before, you could go online and do the search their documentation, or you could download a PDF. They went to a new way of doing their documentation. Now when you go to it, it gives you, it's more intuitive. If you want to learn Lightburn from the beginning, it says like beginners. You click that and then it takes you to another page, and it's got like beginning items, how to make a pattern, how to make a line, how to make a square. Then it's got other areas in there that give you more specific. So if you want to do just shape management, there's one for shape management. If you want to just do node edit, you can click on that and go to that, and it sort of narrows the table of contents down to that area. So you don't have to go through like a 4-page table of contents to figure out what you want to do. And it's really easier to use than the old way of literally going through. If you don't know what something's called, but you sort of know what you want to do, that's the idea in there. That's their concept behind how this works. You don't have to know what that function of Lightburn's called. You just sort of have to know what you want to do with the shape. And we'll get you there. So there's the confusing but 1.7 update. All right. Yes, sir.
Is this pretty much backwards compatible with earlier?
Yes, all Lightburns are backwards compatible, but if you save it in 1.7 and you go home and you have 1.5, you won't be able, you might be able to open it, but you may lose some functionality or lines or something. So you just have to be careful. It's like, the other thing is if you have, if you put a whole bunch of fonts in your computer and you put it in Lightburn and it's really cool, and then you bring it here and it's like, oh, we don't have that font, So I have that problem at home because I have too many fonts. But, so I'm going to rewrite, I'm in the process of rewriting the Lightburn class that I teach because it was written on like 1.5. So 1.6 and 1.7 had some really cool updates, like I said, with the trim tool and some other things. So I'm trying to update the class PowerPoint slides and the notes for that. Everybody should have, that's laser qualified, has the ability to go into the G drive and get the class, the PowerPoint for the class, whatever the newest one is, for the intro to laser, the Lightburn class, and the rotary class, and then the note packages for each one of those two. So there's PowerPoint and the note packages. So if you need refreshers or whatever, you can go in there and pull them down. If you've lost your that reference package I gave you at their laser class, so that you know what power that you're supposed to use and speed for different materials. I change that about every 6 months because the lasers degrade a little bit every time, so I go in and change the numbers and save it.
There's a suggestion.
So,
Print it out. Put it on the.
it is. It's on
Oh,
they're laying
okay.
there.
Okay.
Actually,
I
they're
didn't know
even
if you kept-
laminated.
I didn't know if you kept that up to date.
I try, and I see there's some new ones that are laminated. I don't know where they came from, and they're not the newest ones, so I need to reprint those. I'll probably do that this next Friday. I have a laser class, so I'll reprint them and relaminate them on Friday.
G drive on these machines, it's where the docs are you talked about, or they're just Google Drives?
It's a Google Drive. It's the Google Drive. I sent that out, I don't know, it's been a while back, to everybody that was laser qualified. I sent it out. So that if your email address is the same it was when you took the class, you should be able to go to that G drive and have access to it. All right, any other questions on Lightburn? So this is the list. Maybe. There it is. Of all the stuff that it brought up. But like I said, 90% of it doesn't have anything to do with us. Paul and I are going to, after the holiday gift sale, we're going to install new lenses on the lasers.
What?
Paul's going to do it anytime. Anyway, when we do that, we will send an email out to everybody so that there's new lenses. The reason we're going to send it out is we are putting 2.5-inch lenses on instead of 2-inch lenses. So the focus tool length will change. So you're going to go in with the new focus tool and you're going to go, oh, that's a bigger gap than I had before. And that's sort of the reason we want a little more space in there. But it also should let you cut a little bit thicker wood or cut better.
Does it also mean that
let's say, if I cut the same wood with, let's say, X speed and Y power, I will need less, sorry,
Should.
yeah, okay.
You should need less power, or you should be able to cut it a little bit faster with the new lens. Okay? I won't say that's 100% promise, because
That's
these
really
things
just-
work. These things work the way they work whenever they want to work anyway. So.
Well, it's definitely degraded, you can tell.
No more head crashes, please.
Please, no more head crashes. They, where you ram
Or
the
jam it in, oh my God.
jam it into
Oh,
the what do you call it?
Rotator.
Jam it into anything.
Well, yeah, into the wood or into the bed.
The
Isn't there a way
honeycomb.
to sort of put like what the cameras have, like a cover so it prevents it?
No.
You have to be smart enough and cognizant enough of safe operation of the machine.
So
Like
that's
a table saw or like a bandsaw.
so if you think about it, you don't walk away from the table saw with it running. You shouldn't walk away from that laser while it's running, and you should be watching it when it first starts. And that's what happened with that on that far machine over there. The person okay, it was my file. Okay, I'll own up to that. But the person that was running it wasn't standing there watching the head move when it first started. And what happened was, it was a file that Randy and I had been using for years at our house. Our lasers don't have electrical Z. You have to manually turn a knob to make the bed go up and down. This file had a positive ½ inch Z. So the first thing that the thing does is it says, oh, you want me to raise the bed ½ an inch? Well, if there's only a ¼ inch of clearance to start with, and that's what happened, is it pushed it through. So if somebody had been standing there watching what was going on, they could have reached over and hit the emergency stop as soon as they saw what was going on, but they were gabbing with their back to the machine. And what got their attention was the piece of acrylic breaking into shards and the head scrunching through the freaking,
You can see the
thing.
scar on the honeycomb.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, go look at the one on the
35.
35. It's got a gouge like this long. Because what happens is when the controller loses control, and that's basically what happened, it lost an idea of where it was, it goes back to home. It goes back to the origin, and that you can watch it. So stand there and watch the thing, at least get it started so you can see what's going on. But you shouldn't never leave very far from it anyway. All right, any other questions before Peter takes over? 'Cause I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I see a few people have come in since we got started, so I just put the agenda up on the whiteboard and
I give you the pen, sir.
thank you. It's pretty straightforward. If anybody has a project to do show and tell with, we'll put that on the agenda as well. Otherwise, Chris is going to say a few words about 3D printing. And then we'll get into planning for next year.
This will be pretty quick. Leave it there. Just seconds. All right, so 3D printing. A couple things. First, we are offering classes in November and December. For some reason, it doesn't look like registration's open yet. So I've got to email the pro class people.
They only put them up like 45 days in advance or something.
Or
like
30
30
sometimes.
Or less than 12 for November.
Yeah, I don't know about the November one.
And so I'm not the instructor, so that I might not be able to see if anybody's registered. So, but yeah, the December one isn't open yet either. Anyway, so if you are interested in 3D printing, we've got classes through the end of the year. Just at a high level, it's a 3-hour class. It usually takes about 2.5. We go through just the basics of 3D printing, you know, how to find models, how to get the software and just the basics of the software. And then there's a hands-on project. The idea is to go from not knowing anything about 3D printing to being able to do a very simple project. If you want to go beyond that, there's contact information, resources. Getting to that, so I'm Chris, Cole Roberts. He's relatively new to the shop. Many of you have probably met Cole. He's around a lot. Cole's in the Navy. He's actually on some sail thing right now, so he's not here today. But Cole and I switch off teaching the classes. Cole has a lot of experience with using different materials in 3D printing to augment woodworking, right? So he's built some stuff for the shop, like glue caddies that have 3D printing components, like wood glue sticks to wood, it doesn't stick to plastic, right? Things like that. So if you have a project in mind that you think 3D printing might be useful for, just reach out to one of the two of us. You know, if you're interested in the class and you have questions, emails, we'll have a conversation about, you know, the uses and whatnot. There's also a couple links there. Those are all on the SDFWA page, just information about the printer, stuff like that. All right, the other thing I wanted to show. So 3D printing, it's woodworking adjacent. There's, the software looks way more intimidating than it really is. There's a million different options. There's ways to simplify the options in the software, but really what's happening in the space is that people are automating more and more of it. So you can do some really cool things without necessarily having to go super deep into the topic. And what I wanted to show really quick is one of the things that's being automated, or at least simplified. So the background on my laptop is a picture I took in Ocean Beach at sunset, obviously. That is a 3D print of that picture. It's called a Lithopane. So basically, this is just a piece of plastic that's been printed with 4 different colors. And PLA filament is actually translucent. So what the software does is it takes the image that you load and it basically is determining the thickness of the layers for each of the colors. And you can do this in grayscale too. So the guy who developed that had a website and a pretty good YouTube tutorial. So it wasn't hard to do, but if you were a beginner with the 3D printing software, there were some advanced settings you had to be comfortable adjusting. And it was basically like the height of each of the layers. Yes?
You're referring to the software. What software package are you using?
Our printer in the shop is a Bamboo Labs printer. So yeah, Bamboo Studio is their software. In theory, everybody's using kind of the baseline software and then branding it. They put their stuff on top of it. But if you've used one of the slicing softwares, you probably are going to recognize anything. But Bamboo Studio is the one that works or is integrated with the printer in the shop. So this is the maker space or maker world with Bamboo Studio. And what they've done is they've basically taken that creator's website and integrated it into a very, very easy to use tool on their website. Okay, so I'm in this. I've got, I think it's 6 different options of, let's scroll. Yes. 6 different options, 8 different options to pick. Some of them include the frame that I've printed around that. I'm just gonna show you how simple this is though. So I'm gonna pick that one. So it's just a color print without the frame. Gives me an option to pick an image. I'm gonna pick another sunset image. Got some options here for sizing and if I want to crop the picture. But after I've made my changes, I click download. That's information on the printer. So everything on the left are different print models that Bamboo sells. We have the X1C, and the 2 options on the right are the size of the extruder head. Ours is 0.4. Just take a minute. So basically, it's generating the file. I'll download it, open it up in Bamboo Studio. So what's great about this is it imports all of those different layer settings that you would previously have to go configure yourself. So it's really easy to screw it up. But this tool now, you just upload an image, click, make whatever changes you want, click download, and as long as you've got the right colors loaded in the printer, you can go print this.
So it tells you what colors to print or to load?
Yeah, so the colors are all, it's CMYK, so white, blue, yellow, and like a pink. We have that set. They're not currently loaded, but if this is something you wanted to do, like color I know, and we'll make sure the colors are loaded. Yeah, and then it'll auto configure the layers, the thickness of the layers. So you would just slice and then send it to print like any of those.
Sweet. How long does it print take?
This one I think is, I think when I did this last night, it was about 4.5 hours. Grayscale is obviously faster because it's fewer color changes.
Which Bamboo printer do you have?
I have the same one. I have the X1C.
Okay.
This one's the X1C, yeah.
The best one I know.
At the moment, yeah.
With AMS?
AMS. So
AMS.
AMS is the box that sits on top that holds 4 different filaments. So it'll change the color automatically. So you don't have to sit there and manually change color.
And aren't they on sale right now?
If not, they will be for Black Friday.
No, they aren't, Chris.
It's already on sale.
Yeah.
It's on, started.
Yeah, I just spent way too much money on film.
Yeah, I've stopped
Alright.
looking at the website. I have way more filament than I'll probably ever use.
So, do you have to use the Lithopane filament, or can you use just regular, if you use the right colors?
If you use the right color combination.
You can use regular PLA?
Oh, well, it is PLA. It's just
Okay.
the specific colors.
Oh, okay.
So, but you don't have to buy the bamboo filament if you're printing at home, right? We tend to buy that here because it's just easier to integrate. The machine picks up the color automatically and stuff, and the price difference it's not that big.
So the thickness is like a height map, or how does that kind of relate to the printing?
So when you talk about quality in 3D printing, you're really talking about it prints in layers, right?
Right.
So the thinner the layers, the less the lines are thinner, right? So if you're like feeling the edge of a box you've printed, the thinner the layers, the smoother it's gonna be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so in regard to the lithophanes, the layers matter for how much light can pass through those colors. So the software is basically doing the math on the density of the blue is whatever it is. I need that to be this thick of a layer.
Is that based on the nozzle thickness or
The nozzle thickness is more about like the diameter of the hole in it. So the layer thickness that's printed is how it's a setting, right? It's how close the nozzle is to the bed.
Okay.
And then any of these, that's the light behind that is just a kit I bought from Bamboo. I printed the frame, but I bought the kit. But you just need some sort of light source behind them. So, and look, this is kind of a fun thing to do, not really woodworking. It is holiday time, right? So sort of a fun gift kind of thing. The reason I bring it up though is they continue to make this whole process easier and easier and easier with some of these tools that they're integrating into their website and a bunch of others on the internet. So 3D printing gets easier and easier. Yes?
I have a general question, and that,
We don't know
with
those.
digital tools, how much is AI going to influence the software packages that, whether it's this or CNC or the, whatever it is there any discussion about that in the user groups that you are familiar with?
So I think what you see, I'm sure there's a lot of people in here with thoughts and opinions on this. The easiest use case right now is generating images, right? Especially if you need an SVG file, you put in a prompt and you should be able to get something close, right? Or you can probably just find that on the internet, but whatever. That's, in my limited experience right now, that's the use case for me. Has anybody else been playing with AI tools?
I haven't been playing with AI tools, but as a comment, I'm a VP of engineering that's been trying to retire for the past 2.5 years, and the most impactful difference between AI-generated software is that it becomes what they call a large language model.
Yeah.
So that means that the language that the computers understood 50 years ago when I started doing this, TAD, two's complicated add, that kind of stuff. And now the language is very close to the English that we speak.
Yeah.
So developing your images and the processes will be much easier and much more intuitive compared to what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, because it's more like you would speak rather than have to know the syntax.
Yeah.
So I work in data management at a large company, and we've locked down a lot of the access, but if somebody wants to write a Python script to do something, you can put in a prompt and get 90% of it, right, without having to start from scratch, things like that. There's a lot of uses in tech. Yes?
Going back to the example here with AI, it could do a really good job of sort of segmenting the image out. It could figure things like the depth of each pixel. It could probably separate out your trees from your sunset. So within this whole world of processing and generating an image with filament or whatever, it could do a good job of sort of fine-tuning what the output should be.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
Also like image completion, so if you want to take out one of those trees and fill it in with this sunset, it can do a good job of
Yeah.
Or a shack.
separating.
My pictures, 90% of what I want it to be. Can you remove this woman's dog who's doing its business in the
And
bathroom?
can you add in this? Yeah, I mean, that's all capable with Photoshop now.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, with AI, it's also.
If you
video,
know
so
how
you
to
can
use
do a lot of
Photoshop, it's
stuff.
capable.
yes.
Right, so. Yes.
How many color changes were in this example?
That's a good question. So I'm sure that's in here somewhere. 21 times actually. It's right there.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. So because it's printing a flat layer, you're only getting the color change when. So it's not doing like pink, blue, white, back to pink. It's doing them in layers. So you're only going to have like a pink and a blue layer overlap when there's that specific. I'm not explaining this well, but
Color hue.
Mm.
Right.
yes, thank you. That's yeah. So yeah, but if you're doing, I've printed like tall things with interwoven colors through it. That's 22 hours, and it's not a lot of material. It's just it takes time for the system to go change the colors.
It's not a lot of material because half of what you have is now in the
Waste
yeah,
bin.
the
waste
waste bin.
bin.
Yeah. You can change some of those settings,
Yeah,
but you got to worry about color bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the flush to object option if you don't want to do.
Yep.
the
If you're-
back.
If you can, when it does color changes, you can tell it to basically, so printing a solid block, for example, that's filled in with junk. So you can, instead of wasting the material and the color change, you can use that to fill in the junk. That, you know, you're always going to have waste.
Whatever outside color you want, really.
Yeah, in my example, I was kind of assuming you were changing color throughout it, but yes, yeah, it just depends on what your object is. So
Yeah.
all this stuff we talk about in the class. If you want to.
Yeah.
I signed up.
Great.
Another question. For the Lithopanes, how good does the PLA stand up to UV if you want to make a sun tint in the window?
PLA, so just basic PLA has a fairly low melting point, so it'll get soft, which the example I always use, if you're printing like a cup holder for your car, you don't want to use PLA because it'll melt in a car in the summer.
Form fit.
Yes. It also weakens over time with UV. I'm not sure about the fading. It's a good question though. And I'm not sure how well this would work with just the sun in the background. That's a fairly bright LED light. So I don't know if you get the same effect holding it up in a window.
For what it's worth, typically, my artist wife says that red is the least stable color. I don't know what the relevance would be here.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the material if that makes a difference or not, but. All right, that's all I had unless there are other questions.
So you said it took, what, 4 hours for this?
Yeah, that one would be 4:45 is the total time, yeah.
Well, let's call it 5.
Sure, yeah.
5 hours, and on a printer like out here, it would be 5 hours?
Yes.
So you'd be here for 5 hours watching this grow?
So.
Yeah, can we walk away from the machine?
Yes.
We just had a lecture on walking away from the machine,
Yeah.
so.
But I'm asking the instructor.
Stop if they have a problem.
Yeah, so what we tell people in the class, because the slots are 3 hours, get it started, watch first 15 minutes, that's probably when you're gonna have most of your problems. There's an integrated camera in the printer, and it has a lot of good error detection. So it will stop and notify you if something's going wrong in the middle of a print. So what we tell people, okay, your shop slot is 3 hours, you've got a print that's longer than that. Try to book the last slot or back to back, right? But you don't, once it's started, it's not gonna catch on fire, right? Not like the laser. Worst case scenario is it finishes the print and something's happened and it's just a jumble of melted plastic that pulls off the bed. So it wastes $1 of plastic. Yeah, but also if you are using our shop printer and have logged into this shop software, you can watch it with a camera on the software.
And literally 90% of your failures are in the first 3 layers anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Park your name on it, on a piece of paper, tape it to the thing,
And your phone
because,
number.
because anybody that follows your shop slot to use the 3D printer has the right, either you come in the next day when the shop opens to remove your project off of the 3D, or people would remove it for you. So you gotta make sure that your project is identified. Just like anything else in the shop, the overnight glue ups, for example. You always have to put your name on it if you're leaving it overnight, and then come in the next day.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing for the camera in the machines. When you start the job, you have the option of how it does the video for it, and you can have it take a picture every layer with the head out of the way. So that way at the very end, you'll get a time-lapse video of the whole thing, and this looks like it's coming out of the bed. And it doesn't.
Yeah, so
There's a checkbox you gotta set to do that.
yeah, the camera's got 2 purposes. One is to monitor your project, but the second is to do a time lapse of the print.
Documentation.
Yeah, so in
Dentistry,
what,
you can do it.
yeah, what David's saying, there's 2 options. There's one where every time it finishes a layer, it will take a picture, but you see the print head in the picture. So in the whole video, you see the object being printed, but the print head is in that. Or you can tell it to move the print head out of the way, and then it just looks like the object is being created out of nothing. That does add quite a bit of time, right? Because it's got to move for every layer. It moves the print head out of the way. So if you want to be a YouTube star and do Rob Sandstrom's YouTube channel, but for 3D printing.
Your intro video, right? It's part of the credits.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
I got a silly question. I just got a A1 or X1C.
Okay.
And wanted to be able to save stuff to the SD card. And went out and bought a 1 terabyte card.
Yep.
And it will not format.
It won't. There is a workaround for that. Let's connect and I'll.
Okay, talk to you after.
Yeah.
Comment about the question about the UV sensitivity to PLA. I think it's sort of a low tolerance for UV, and this is based on having made prototype subassemblies using PLA, and I left some on my bookshelf, which had a direct shot through the window, and in about 6 months, those pieces got brittle to the point where you could break them in your fingers. But then I found some other parts that had been in a box, and those were sort of in new condition.
Yeah, if you're printing something that's going to be outside, don't use PLA, right? If it's going to get sunlight. But this printer will print, it's like a dozen different materials. So there's other options available depending on what your use case is. Yeah. Anything else?
Great, thanks, Chris. Yep. Dang, there we go. So, what I mostly want to talk about is what we're going to do next year. And I agreed to lead this discussion because Pat wasn't here, but I don't think I don't really want to lead the digital SIG for the next year. So that's one issue. Another issue would be whether we really need a leader. I mean, maybe just somebody to keep the agenda. But the main point is, what do we want to talk about? Do we want to continue this kind of discussion with some, show and tell, what people are making? what do we want the digital SIG to do? You know, and I have a couple of ideas. We talked about some of them in an earlier meeting, but I'd really like to hear what people here have found valuable in however many years the digital SIG has been around, and then try to continue that, or add new things in. Has anybody, if anybody has thoughts, let's bring them up and I'll put them on the whiteboard and we can sort of discuss back and forth.
Well, my name's Kevin. I'm new to the whole digital world of printing and laser and so on and so forth. So I appreciate learning how tools work, how software works, how they integrate on a regular basis even.
So how tools,
Something, yeah, how-tos associated with people that are just being introduced to digital. And even, so a how-to beginning perhaps, and a how-to advanced section. Not necessarily in the same meeting, but you know, there are people that I'm sure that are much more advanced that would still want to have that learning mode encouraged.
So I think there's a lot of similarities between, you know, the prime focus of the digital SIG as woodworking. I think there's three areas. You know, one is the same that you already have up there, except I'd call it to educate, and then the other element is to inspire us to do new things, different things, and then to show off our victories, what we've done, what we've succeeded in doing, and you know, provide a little bit of self-fulfillment and maybe inspire somebody else to go in a different direction from that. So educate, inspire, and brag. You know, three separate areas.
David, you've done a lot of this.
What's gonna pique your interest? Keep coming to the special interest group
The donuts.
and to bring people.
And then going off his idea of learning, I mean, we've had presentations before about particular processes like V-cart inlaying, CNC.
I'm sorry, processes, and then you said,
Like the V-cart inlaying with the CNC. So the process of how you use the V-cart software to actually achieve that from pattern. So we've had those kind of presentations before, but I think that's the kind of thing that you're thinking of. So some stuff along that line is nice.
what should I call that?
I mean, it's going off the first point, basically.
Well, how about new techniques or new techniques and tools? Is that kind of what you were thinking, maybe?
Yeah.
How about the integration of all of these tools, whether it be CNC, 3D printing, laser? How does that get integrated with your woodworking project to enhance that simple box?
And there was such a thing as a simple box.
Well, yeah, it's the one that you can generate in V-cart.
Alan?
Well, I want to, we talked about the whole show and tell display type thing of coming up with a challenge for the, you know, couple of months. And not a challenge of 3D printing, but a challenge of an object. And then can hear. I can talk, and you may not be able to hear, maybe that's what. Anyway, a challenge of an object, like, I don't know, a box, but it's not a 3D printed box, it's not a CNC box, it's not a laser box, it's just a box. And then whatever medium or equipment that you want to work with is what you come up with that month, and then you bring it in and show and give us the 2-minute version of how hard or what you figured out with this, whether it's inlaying the top of the box if that's what you want to do, or it was sublimating the bottom of the 3D print, or whatever, just to sort of get people to do a project and bring in 2 months, and continuing the show and tell portion. And I think part of that, seeing other people's projects, then we get the integrating it into other woodworking, we get the new techniques, because David's gonna bring in something that we've never heard of or saw before, and then we're gonna want to know how to do that. Randy's gonna bring in some weird picture stuck to the top of the box, we're gonna want to know where that came from. So I believe that gets more for participation of everybody, instead of having 1 or 2 people, having Chris get up and talk about 3D printers, and me get up and talk about the laser, and Randy get up and talk about the sublimation printing. Every time we have more audience participation.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bonus for that as well, that if you've got excess projects afterwards, if we donate a holiday.
There you go, holiday gift sale, bring them in. Well, it's like I got Chris to, when I took the 3D printer class, he had the little LiDAR of San Diego, and he made, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those. And when we got down to the group and I put them down there, they're like, but they got plastic frames. It's like, well, yeah, it's 3D printing. And somebody said, well, what if we CNC the frames? So Joe Penny went and made CNC, platters for them. And then he's like, but it's got a plastic name tag. So then he went and did the V-carve inlay and did the San Diego in there. And then it's like, well, but we've got 3 extra plastic trays. What are we gonna do? So I had to go home and print 3 more of them. So now we have them in plastic trays and wooden trays with inlaid, San Diego name on it. So yeah, it becomes a add to the holiday gift sale thing.
Was this the one that was at the Vector Fuser show a couple years ago?
No idea.
Oh, because there was one there of the San Diego that somebody had done.
This is, you can download almost, any big city, I think now has a LiDAR map of it. And I've got New York City and Washington DC and Chicago, and I just did Calgary the other day for a friend of mine.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, you can get LA and San Francisco.
So taking that example, how would you integrate that with the project focus?
That one would probably be a hard one to say, because if you don't have the 3D printer, you're not gonna be able to start the project. Even if you had CNC, it would be hard to make that the city with a CNC.
The idea of using more than one technique or tool.
Is the idea of the project, yeah.
Well, integrating techniques, maybe as part of, even in the digital with the woodworking, just integrating techniques.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean here.
Okay.
It's short for digitals.
Typically, I've seen where you can do a reverse engrave of a piece of clear acrylic, and that makes the buildings, and you flip it upside down, you can see them come up through it, and you can get a coaster or something, it's flat on top.
Yeah.
But instead of having to use the 3D printer, you could also use a laser.
Yeah,
For 3D
or
printing.
or the CNC. Yeah, you'd have to use it a little bit.
Well, it seems to me that this project focus could encompass a lot of these other things. I mean, if we're talking about a box, somebody's gonna make one on a laser, or somebody's gonna make one with a CNC, somebody's gonna print it, and then decorate it with sublimation. So the project a project would certainly encompass, when we presented the projects, it would help to teach, and having a project would inspire people to do something. It seems to me the project focus in many ways incorporates all these other ideas.
Well,
Yeah.
Speaking about projects, I see empty spaces on the walls here.
Yeah.
That, to me, it would be nice to have some exhibit cases.
Samples.
That people could put up samples and advertise the classes, et cetera, and say, okay, here, this is a puzzle that's made using the sublimation and the laser cutout, or something along that line where people can show off their work and help to inspire people to come in to the special interest groups and to the shop.
Well, some of that's in the other room.
yeah, we got
but-
that.
But we do have a lot of empty wall space here. And so the first project should be making display cases.
Not my job.
Right.
The problem is the display cases that were next door that have been taken over by the holiday gift sale people. Were supposed to be for exactly what you were talking about, people to display things.
Yeah.
The problem was, people brought the stuff for the holiday gift sale that was too big to pack, those banjos or whatever you call them in there. They won't fit in storage, and they're too fragile to go set in a storage place anyway, so we've started sort of scold that area. And then, like Peter was saying, the shelves back here have been filled up by David and I and Travis and a few other people. We need to sort through them and.
Or create a rotating.
Well, we need to thin out what's there, right, and create something, because some of that stuff has been there for,
Too long.
4 years.
You ought to put it.
Well,
Name on display and
donated to
have
the
a
public.
termination date.
Yeah.
When we can do that.